back, guys. So we're going to continue with this guitar kit here. One of the things that I noticed immediately when I picked up this neck is that as you run your hand along the edge here, you can feel your hand catching on all of these sharp fret ends. Okay, so they're not really poorly rounded. They're not well rounded from the top here, but they've got very sharp edges sticking out on the side. And that's what we're going to try and deal with today, is kind of all of that stuff. So we're going to get started with taping. I'm going to show you guys probably a trick that you already know for how to make it easier to remove the tape after you've done it. And then we're going to get started on filing the edges of these frets. Alright guys, so the idea here is we want to protect everything that we're not working on, which means the entire fretboard, everything other than the frets essentially. So in this video we're addressing the fret ends. In the next one we're going to be polishing up the frets, because polished frets are more fun to play with. So to begin with, what I'm going to do here, and what I think probably most of you already know to do, is I'm going to run a piece of tape down the entire side. Now I'm going to put it a little bit lower than usual, and I'm going to use the edge that doesn't have the tear on it, sorry. I'm going to put it a little bit lower because I want to be able to really get at the edges of these frets, because that's kind of what I'm working on to start with here. And I'm just going to run that all the way along. I don't know why I'm having so much difficulty with this. I'm getting really sick of that heater, but I need it for painting, so there's nothing I can do about it except apologize. I'm sorry for the noise. Anyway, I run tape all the way along that edge, and what that's going to allow me to do is peel it up after, and it's going to pull all the other pieces of tape with it, hopefully. Usually it does. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side because, hey, sometimes it doesn't really work the first time. It needs to be protected anyway, so it's good to do the sides first for that reason. Alright, so now that those are done, it's pretty simple. You just take your pieces of tape and tape off the fretboard. Don't tape the frets. So for these bigger areas, you can just run a piece of tape along the edge of the fret like that. Sometimes it takes two. Notice I haven't taped the fret at all. Man, that heater is ridiculous. When you get into the area of the fretboard where the frets are closer together, what you do is put the piece of tape over top, burnish it down with your finger, make sure you press it in right up against the fret with your fingernails. You don't need to actually push it down like that, sorry. And then take a razor blade and run it right along the inside of the fret at an angle. Alright, and that should perfectly protect your fretboard between the frets. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the fretboard off camera, and we'll be back. Sorry about the noise from the heater there, guys. I wish I could turn that off, but I got to spray some lacquer in here very, very soon, and I need the temperature and humidity to be, within a certain range, otherwise it'll be a huge issue. Anyway, I've got this all taped up now, so like I said, you just put the tape down, push it in against the fret with your fingernail, or even with the back of the razor blade, and then cut along the edge, and this is all protected and ready to go. So now we get to start on the filing. I'm going to start with a relatively coarse file. You don't have to have fret files, obviously they're nice, but what you do have to have is a file that has nothing on the edge here. So it's got to be smooth on the edge so that you're not grinding in to the fretboard, because the tape won't be enough to protect it if you do. So there's always the option, if you need to just take a regular file, which does have this stuff on the edge, and grind it down very smooth. You'll want a couple different ones, but I can take this and fulfill the same purpose that I'm going to be doing or fulfilling with these ones. The only thing is this one is fairly rough, so I will need to go over it with a smoother one after. Same thing I'll have to do with these. So I'm going to start with the rough one. I'm just going to pick a fret at random because I'm only going to do a couple of them here in front of you. So I'm just going to round off. These are diamond files, so they sound a little different. Round off all the stuff here. And notice I'm starting on the edge and I'm kind of rotating it. That's exaggerated, but I'm kind of rotating over the top here. So that's how you do it. The same way you do crowning, which I don't need to do on these. These are already crowned. And then I'm going to go on the edge and just kind of clean that up a little bit carefully and make sure that it's not catching the way the others do. Alright, so I do that, and then I'm going to switch to a much finer file here and make sure I'm getting the same fret and repeat the process. And you can tell it sounds smoother as it's going over because it's a finer file. Alright, so now when I run my finger over these, they still feel a bit rough, and when I come along the edge, they're catching a bit. But this one feels nice and smooth, and when I finish this whole process off with the fret erasers and the polishing, it'll be nice and smooth. So when you're moving at full pace here, this doesn't take a ridiculously long time. I mean, you can go in and kind of do them all from one side. It's not something you want to rush, though, if you're not used to it. It's not exactly my first time doing it, so I can move a little quicker than maybe somebody who hasn't done it before, and not as quick as somebody who does it all the time. There's quite an angle on that first fret. Alright, so that's, sorry, you shouldn't pull back like that. I shouldn't have done that. So that's all the coarse ones done on one side of those first 5. And then I'm smoothing them all out. So you can see this actually moves fairly quickly. I mean, it's a bit monotonous, a bit tedious, and a little bit harder if you're not relatively ambidextrous like I am. It's nice being able to use both hands for it. But you can develop that skill if you practice a little bit. Just make sure you're keeping an eye on the edges of your tape where they meet the frets to double check that it's not starting to wear off or peel up or anything like that, because you really don't want to be filing into your fretboard if you can avoid it. Alright, so that's feeling much better. That's half of those first 5 done. So that's how you do this. There's no point in you watching me do all 21 of them, both sides, but I'm sure you get the concept. And yeah, that's how you dress fret ends. So that's going to make the guitar a lot more comfortable to play. Running your hand up and down the fretboard isn't going to be like borderline dangerous anymore. So if you do get a kit or something with that issue, or you buy a replacement neck or whatever, check the edges of the frets, and if you need to dress the fret ends, that's how you do it. We're going to call that a wrap for this video, and in the next one we'll come back and actually polish up the frets, which again makes the guitar more comfortable to play and makes it easier to play quickly and stuff like that. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up so it'll be easier for other people to find, and subscribe to stay up to date with all the cool projects I got coming out. Also, a big shout out to Sovereign King, who does the vast majority of the music for my channel, way better on guitar than I am, and to Troy from Noise Guitar Mods. I'll put the link in the description. The man is a great guitar tech, and he's taught me most of what I know about how the internals of these things work. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. See you next time.